What's going on? It's your boy Bart Winston with another video. So this video is about black women being fired. Black women are being fired across America at higher rates, okay, than other women of other races. It's just the truth, all right? Now, some people will say, oh, this is a video to cry. It's no, it's a video to tell you the truth, okay? If you're a black man or white man watching this, all right, you have not lived the life of a black woman in the workforce, all right? So for you to try to say, I'm going to tell you how things go based on what I heard on TV and on YouTube, you're wrong. It's time to learn. All right, so let's hit play here. We're going to go into the comment section also, all right? Because I'm not going to sit there and act like I know everything about the life of a black woman as a black man. I don't. I don't. All right, let's hit play.
The challenge with this is that when you look at black women, we, in particular in terms of women, we are, in terms of participation in the labor market, we're 60% more than all of our women counterparts of the labor market. But what's interesting in federal jobs, we're about 11.7%, which means that's in parity of our population, right? But when you look in the private sector, we're less than 1.8% when you look at higher management jobs. So what we have seen.
I'll say, okay, so she said that there's 11% of black women working at government jobs. Now, some people would say, well, see right there, that shows how much they hire y'all. But the reality is that the reason why a lot of black women are working those jobs is because they're the ones that are actually applying at those jobs, okay? It's as simple as that. Like, you don't see a ton of black folks complain about not being able to work at 7-Eleven. You want to know why? Because a lot of black folks are not trying to work at 7-Eleven. It's simple as that, okay? But a lot of black women, they'll work those type of jobs. They'll work at the DMV. They work different jobs that a lot of people just don't want to work at, okay? Not saying that those are terrible jobs or that we can't get in those jobs, just that they apply to those jobs and they get there. Okay, so let's continue. Now, let me say this real quick too. Did she say, okay, well, as for the private sector, all right, they're given in higher echelon jobs, they're higher less. All right, let's continue.
Is that federal jobs have actually created a pathway and opportunity that black women, it demonstrates that when black women are given an opportunity, that there are federal protections that allow us to matriculate, that what you see is that we're able to get representation. What he's saying around that we're supposed to just play on the market, but what we're seeing is an underrepresentation in the market, that oftentimes we're underpaid in the market, we're in entry-level jobs, you do not see the same kind of economic stability that we've seen with federal employment.
I saw your facial expression.
Because ultimately, a lot of the hiring.
She's looking like, oh, I can't look at her eyes. She's like, oh, I can't believe that you would be so stupid to even think that.
That oftentimes we're underpaid in the market, we're in entry-level jobs, you do not see the same kind of economic stability that we've seen with federal employment.
I saw your facial expression.
Because ultimately, a lot of the hiring I feel that's happened within the federal government was to check boxes for DEI, not necessarily.
I feel like she's stupid here, okay, in what she's saying. I'm trying to be nice here. She's stupid in what she's saying. She's a black woman. I guarantee you she's not worked a lot of jobs in her lifetime, okay? The jobs that she's worked at has probably been CNN, okay, or something simple, all right? And I'm telling you from experience, from seeing a lot of black women, even in my own family, who have been saying for years that they've worked jobs. I'm going to pull the comment section up to show you what I'm talking about also. They've worked jobs and they've seen people being elevated over them. Even me, myself, as a black man, I've even seen that. I've even seen jobs. I worked at jobs for years. I worked at Chick-fil-A, for example. This is a low-level job. I worked at Chick-fil-A, okay, for years. And it took me a while for them to offer me a management job, okay? But I remember there was a white kid that came in, okay, and he was like, how old was the kid? 15 years? He was old, 15, 16 years old. And before a year passed, the manager was about to make him a manager. I said, this kid barely worked at the job for a year. Okay, and I cannot help but see that, okay, I worked here for years. He never taught me about that. But he's a white kid, comes in, and you immediately want to make him a manager. And if I said something about that, people would say, oh, you're just being racist. You're just complaining. No, I literally seen it. I've seen it more than once. I actually saw it twice. I saw it 2 times. Okay, my manager was a nice guy. The white guy was a nice guy, but I literally seen it from my very eyes. Let's continue.
Early because this was just
Saw your facial expression.
Because ultimately, a lot of the hiring I feel that's happened within the federal government was to check boxes for DEI, not necessarily because this was just perfect for them.
The only problem is that DEI does not say you must hire a black woman. DEI says bring in people that are minorities, bring in people that are just not what you always have, which is, let's say, it's all, you know, basically DI says bring in minorities, bring in people that are of other classes, okay? So usually if it's a lot of white men at these certain type of jobs, all right, they're saying, well, bring in a few people, okay? And DI does not even say you have to hire them. It actually is saying that it's saying, because, and I said it because if a person, for example, is completely unqualified, TV always makes it appear for example, let's say the job is you have to have a college education, something like that, right, to get a job. They act like they're just hiring people that are not qualified, but that's simply not the case. Because even with DEI, if a person is not qualified, you don't have to hire them. DEI does not say if a person does not meet the qualifications, you can hire them. Okay, but people online act like that's what happens, and that simply never happens. It never happens. What it says is that if there are 50 people that are all qualified, pick at least a few that are minorities. Okay, it's as simple as that. It's not saying that these people are not qualified, but that's what idiot people, okay, I have to say that, what idiot people continue to say online over and over and over again, and they're getting this from racist outlets that are, where they've been online that are racist, probably KKK members, and they're not going to tell you they are, because that's something that's hidden. They pull the sheets out when it's time for them to pull the sheets out when it's time to march about that. But they'll come on TV and say racist stuff and say there's harm, just like when they came against affirmative action, okay, and they said, oh, affirmative action just help is just taking our jobs. When the reality is that affirmative action was put in place because y'all simply would not hire black people at all, because y'all didn't want to hire them, even though they were qualified or more qualified. And people say, oh, affirmative action is just giving them free jobs. That's when that actually was not the case at all. It never was the case. All right, and I see a lot of people, even people that are minorities, and what benefit from this stuff, but listen to extreme right-wing outlets or people on YouTube that are right-wing, but they don't know they're right-wing because they're not. They'll say, "Oh, we're just in the middle," and actually they're not in the middle. They're right-wing. Okay, and I'll say, "Oh, at the end of the day, you're just hiring people because of their race." When it's not, simply not the case. Like I said, no job can be forced to hire somebody that does not have the qualifications just because of their race. They're telling you to do or ask you to do is pick somebody that is qualified. Okay, but and so what she's saying, like she said, oh, they were just forced to just pick these people. These people weren't really qualified. Where are you getting information from? And you also notice you will never see a statistic online showing, backing up what she's saying. When these people say that these people weren't qualified, you will never see that. But they always are saying that. You understand what I'm saying?
And I only say that because of how many black women have been employed. And I think that's part of the reason is we're seeing the layoffs that we're seeing.
And like I said, she said, I'm saying that only because there's a lot of women that are employed that have been fired. The only problem is, like I said, a lot of these black women are the ones, the issue is that these jobs, a lot of times, black women are going after, okay? And a lot of people may not want to go after. Like for example, years ago, I used to work at a company called Marshall Marmax, all right? It was a very difficult overnight job, all right, of like packaging things, doing all kinds of stuff. It may seem easy. It was extremely difficult. It was extremely difficult. I'm the kind of person, I know how to work. And it was full of Indian people there. I never in my life knew that Indian people work overnight jobs like that. I thought they just worked at 7-Eleven, okay? When I got this job, I said, it's like a ton of Indian people here, all right? And I thought, wonder why they're all here like this. Is because they just will hire them. But the reality is that the reason why there was some Indian people there was because they wanted to work there. Okay, and they were pushing to get that job. A lot of them came from other countries, and they would get a job, and they would tell their relatives to apply, and they would apply, and they would work. And the job was extremely difficult. But a lot of other people would not work that kind of job. Like me, I could not continue to work in that job because it was just so difficult. All right, it's the same thing with Mexicans working in the fields. Okay, it's not like there's a ton of black folks with a ton of single white males trying to work at those jobs. Okay, picking fruit is not, it has never been on the top of my list. Okay. Somewhere in some field in the hot sun. It's simply not something that I want to do. And there are other jobs that I could have done, and those are the jobs that I did for many, many years. Okay, so what this woman in the middle is saying, it seems smart. She was like, oh, they're just trying to check boxes because people say it online, but all of that stuff is a bunch of baloney, and it's simply not the truth. Right now, we are under the Trump administration, and Trump and his racist cronies want to get rid of black people from the work market. They want to make things be pro-white in every single way. It's as simple as that. So when they're hitting black folks and attacking them, they're saying, yo, you guys were just getting an advantage. Black people were never given an advantage, okay? We were brought here as slaves. You gonna go back to slavery? Absolutely, because I have to say to explain how we were brought here as slaves, and then when we entered the work market, we were at the bottom, all right? Then when they say, oh, affirmative action, give them a little bit of help. What do white people say? They say, I'm not talking about all white people, because all white people were the ones that are helping push that. But some white people, okay, the racist folks, they were saying, oh, now you're trying to give them a handout. Why can't you give them something? Our ancestors going back not even 200-something years, were literally like 100-something years, okay? You can go back into my own family line, just a few generations, and immediately see a slave, okay? Which tells you what? Well, it tells you that my family was not able to, in any way at all, gain any kind of true wealth because they were slaves. All right. So the beginning of my family line when it comes to money building and wealth building starts just maybe 60 something years ago. You understand what I'm saying? So it's really not a long line of wealth. So when people say, oh, we'll help them out, on top of the fact that the United States brought us here as slaves, so they kidnapped our little forefathers, and they deserve, and really we should be given all that reparation, all that kind of stuff they talk about, even though I personally don't want that. The reality is that the United States does owe that to all of us. Okay, but they've given it to every other race but us. They've given it to they've given reparations to, I believe, the Japanese. Oh, we've done this. The Japanese, we're going to give them money. We're giving it to everyone else. Okay, every other race, but they would not give it to the black folks. You want to know why? Because they can't stand black folks. All right, and even in the situation right here, this woman is sounding like a fool. But let's continue. I'm gonna go back a little bit and talk a little more. I just like to say these things, and of course, this is a commentary video. I can't just let the video play and not talk, or my video will be claimed by them or be taken down. So I have to talk. Okay, but I want to give you guys some insight because a lot of people online, they don't know what they're talking about, and a lot of people they're listening to people online don't know what they're talking about. All right, as it pertains to how things go in the real world. Okay, let's continue.
Because this was just perfect for them. And I only say that because of how many black women have been employed. And I think that's part of the reason is we're seeing the labor.
She's not saying I'm only saying that because of knowledge that I have. She said I'm only saying it because of how many have been employed. In other words, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm looking at it from a distance. I'm looking at these figures, and this is what I'm assuming. Let's continue.
That we're seeing in the unemployment because that's how they got hired in the first place.
You know, I think the interesting thing about that is that in terms of federal jobs, that is merit-based, that people actually are able to keep their jobs or even to literally ascend based on being merit-based. You know,
see that? So she said that's not true, baby. It's merit-based. It's not based on you being black. Okay, it's merit-based. Also, it still doesn't make any sense with what she's saying, even if the woman in the middle was right, because DEI or affirmative action type programs still say bring in a minority or so, and not only that, but they even mixed in with minorities, people that are gay, lesbian, all that kind of stuff, which makes it even more difficult for you to single out a particular type of person because they mix all this stuff together now. Okay, so you may say, well, it helps them. No, it doesn't. It actually makes it worse because now, if you're a black woman, for example, or a black man, you have to compete with all these other folks to get in, just to be able to get in and being qualified. You understand what I'm saying? So it makes it even harder. All right. So to say, oh, you went to black women, there's no DEI that has ever been invented that said this DEI, we're telling this company to at least hire few black women and black women only. It never has happened in the history of the United States of America. So what she's saying just doesn't make, it's just simply not the case. It's not true. And I wish that woman would have said that, but what she's saying is good. She's saying, in the end of the day, it's merit-based. So you ascend, because they're talking about also black women being able to get higher level jobs from the entry level job. Okay, and she's saying even with that, it's still merit-based. So what are you talking about?
That in the private sector. So I think it's really to say that in terms of federal jobs, that is merit-based, that people actually are able to keep their jobs or even to literally ascend based on being merit-based. You don't see that in the private sector. So I think it's really to say that black women working in these jobs is to check a box. It ignores the fact that that is a merit-based.
Well, to a degree, because I do know for federal government, depending on what your history is.
See how she's talking? She keeps on saying, well, I do know for. She's not saying based on what I've seen. I'm a black woman. I worked in the workforce. She's not saying that. Instead, she keeps on saying what I know. So basically, what she's saying is that I'm not really in this like that. I'm here on CNN as a voice on here today. I don't know if she works full time at CNN or not, but I'm sure that she's probably one of the people that they bring in oftentimes, and they give them a check every time they come in to talk on CNN as a contributor. All right, but you notice every time she talks as if she's just looking at a figure because she doesn't know what she's talking about.
You have working in these jobs is to check a box. It ignores the fact that that is a merit base.
Well, to a degree, because I do know for federal government, depending on what your history is, if you have worked in the military, if you're black,
working in the military has nothing to do with you being a black woman. Number one, why would you bring that up? Let's continue.
You get extra points when it comes to hiring, and so being black.
And what she said was very vague there. She said you get extra points. What do you mean extra points? Are you hired or are you not hired because of that? But she doesn't say that. She's very particular with the words. You get extra points. Okay. So I look at what people say, and I look at everything that you say. What do you mean extra points? Well, what she's saying is you get hired. No, she didn't say that. She said extra points. So she can't be held as a liar later. She's very careful how she's saying it.
In in general will push people up when it comes to hiring. I do know for federal government, depending on what your history is, if you have worked in the military, if you're black, you do get extra points when it comes to hiring. And so being black in general will push people up when it comes to hiring. Being a black woman will push people up when it comes to hiring.
Yeah, can I pause? I think we have to think about the impact. I mean, the fact that you have hundreds, thousands of black women who are out of jobs. Women from the age of 40-something, 50-something who are caregivers for their families. We've had reports. We have interviewed women who are struggling right now. So I hear what you're saying about the checking of the boxes, but I think we're losing sight of the human impact of this.
Actually, I agree with you on that. I actually feel that it's quite unfortunate that that has to happen, but we cannot continue to keep people in jobs to keep a payroll going. I think that's unfortunate.
But that's not...
See, so what happens is that when all these black women get fired from different jobs during the Trump administration, and they can't get hired any job, the white people will say, the white race people, I should say, they'll say, well, we're not giving you any jobs because you're not qualified. And then when the black women say, no, we are qualified, they'll say, shut up, you're not qualified. That's why you don't get a job. But when the black women are complaining, you won't hear them, okay? Because they didn't get the job. So because they didn't get the job, you won't even hear them. You only hear them if you go to their social media and hear them and want to hear them talking, which you won't do because you believe in any other side, okay? So that woman saying, well, everything's happening as it should happen. She's listening to the racist side, essentially, and just being truthful here. She's listening to the racist side. They say they only hired them. But as I just explained to you, it's impossible for DEI or for affirmative action to exclusively single out black women to hire them because it's not how it's actually even written in its code. Their argument doesn't make any sense. Only an idiot would say something like that, or a person that's unknowledgeable on those things. And there are a lot of people in the United States that are not black women that are unknowledgeable, and they listen to outlets that are extremely right-wing or extremely racist that say they're not right-wing. It's a lot of them that say, we're not right-wing, we're in the middle. And they really are not. Okay, they really are not. But they don't want to have the right-wing banner over them because they want to get more views from everybody. They love to suck people in from financially, it's easier, it is more lucrative to say we're in the middle nowadays than to say I'm just on one side. Okay, but let's continue.
I mean, again, I have to disagree with you. I think a lot of the women who have been losing their jobs have played critical roles in government.
But if it was
and it's
really
beyond
critical,
DEI.
If it was really critical, they would still have their job. It wasn't that critical.
No, they don't have their jobs because now there's a policy in place that really has been racialized. It's not. We're looking at a space that how were they able to ascend? It wasn't about the check.
It's not just too that. Somebody may say, well, the DI went away, so they lost their job. It's not just that. It's that the economy is taking a huge hit. And as people have said for many years, we go to the comment section after this real quick. As people have said for years, black people are the last hired and the first fired. And that's not just something that black people say is a complaint. That's the truth. And I've seen in the workforce as a black man. We're the last hired, which means that when it comes to hiring, I'm not talking about working at McDonald's. I'm talking about working at a job where you can get good money and things like that. They'll look at a black person like, is there anybody else we can pick besides a black person? Is there anybody else? You got a black man trying to work at this job. Okay, is there anybody else? See what I'm saying? We're the last hire. And then when it's time to fire folks, get Tyrone. Get him out of here. Okay, Tyrone, you're a good rate worker. You never had a complaint against you. But, the company's suffering, Tyrone. Buddy, I'm sorry. We got to let you go. That's what happens. They look at it. Because it's as simple as that, okay? It's like if a ship is going down, okay? What do? You start throwing stuff overboard. But you're not going to throw the most valuable thing overboard first. You're going to throw the thing that's the least valuable overboard first. And when they look at black people in the United States of America, if you can't see that people think that black people are the least valuable, you're an idiot. And it's as simple as that. If you can't see that, you got to be a complete dummy not to see that. In the United States of America, since the beginning, has seen black people as being less important. That's why they had us as slaves, because we were not that important in their sight. After slavery, what do? They push us do Reconstruction, which is a period after slavery. They push us into the worst jobs. They didn't want us to be free from slavery, so they said that we're going to chase you around, we're going to divide the country up so that there are Jim Crow laws to fight against you, so you cannot vote. You cannot do this. You cannot do that. You can have no impact in society. When black folks through the civil rights movement fought against that, okay, then and from some of those things came things like affirmative action, which is what DEI comes from to a degree. All right. Then now in 2025, people will say, you guys just got handouts, and they forget about all the how we got to that place. Okay, they forget about all of that. And their black person brings it up, you say, oh, you guys are just crying. You always want to go back to the past. Yeah, because the past tells you how you got to where you are now. You understand what I'm saying? But people that are stupid, okay, and if you think like this, you feel like I'm calling you stupid, I am. And me calling you stupid does not mean that I'm trying to make fun of you. What I'm saying is that in these issues, you are stupid. You need to gain knowledge. You are not as smart as you think that you are, okay? You know, there are areas in this world that I'm stupid in, okay? There are things I need to learn about that if I were to try to go in there as expert, I would be stupid. And I need to learn, okay? It's just simple as that. I'm not an expert in knowledge about everything, all right? If I wanted to be a ballerina or whatever, or have my daughter be a ballerina, I don't know nothing about that world. I'm stupid regarding that world. So if I were to go to the ballerina teacher and say, you need to do this and that, she would look at me and say, you're stupid. You don't know what you're talking about. She'd be right. All right, let's continue. No, you know what? Let's go to the comment section. Let's go. Also, if you like this video, if you're enjoying this video, please hit the like button so it can be seen on YouTube and share the video. This woman says, I worked at a wine company. I'm a black woman. And one of my coworkers was a white woman. We had the same level of education, went to the exact same school, was in our careers for the same amount of time. Both worked extremely hard. Both got raving reviews year after year. By the time I was laid off, I was a manager, and she was a director. Of course, a director is above a manager. What does that tell you? Look at the replies from 1 Peter, which is, of course, a man here. Literally nothing. Okay? Why? Well, because you didn't live the life that she's talking about, and you don't want to sympathize. You don't care. It just says literally nothing with an exclamation point. And he has 23 thumbs up today. Okay. Next comment is from a guy John, so there's another male here, John Kim. I agree with you. There is discrimination out there, but then he immediately says this. But the solution isn't to hire a bunch of people on the government payroll. So in other words, he's saying I agree with you that there's discrimination out there. But if you agree with that, then why would you say the next statement? What he's trying to say is don't hate me. But I believe that y'all were hired because you don't have any skills. You were hired because they were told to hire you. Even that thought alone is very, very racist. People don't want to be caught out on that, but I will. To say they just hired y'all because y'all are black. Where are the statistics to show that these black folks were not qualified? You understand what I'm saying? You won't find it. Show a white woman and a black woman at the same job and show that the black woman didn't go to college, didn't do anything, just literally had no job in her entire life, and then just got that high level job, and the white woman had all kind of education. She got that job. You will not see that. But what you will see are situations like for example, people in my family where, you know, like for one of my sisters, for example, my sister told me a story about how she worked a job. All right, that on the application says you had to have a high school diploma. You had to have this. You had to have that. And she said there's a white guy, and she got the job, barely got the job. But she said there's a white guy who got hired after her, and this guy didn't even finish high school, and they hired him just like that. She said I had to fight so hard to get his job, but you hired this guy, and allowed him to climb the ladder, and he didn't even finish high school. And she was 100% right. But that will not be spoken about on TV, okay? But what will be spoken about on TV is DEI. Black folks getting jobs they shouldn't get, which is simply untrue. It's the racist side now coming to the forefront. Okay, this is what racist white folks and racist people all across the country have been wanting to say for years. All right, because they're so stupid and they don't understand how the real world really works. All right, and they say, now am I here to say that DEI and that affirmative action have not been abused at times? They have been abused at times for sure. Okay. But at the end of the day, at their core, that's not why they exist, to be abused. Every government program has been abused. Welfare has been abused. Does welfare help people? Absolutely. But because welfare has been abused, should it be removed completely? No. But you know what Trump and I want to do? If they could, they remove it completely, just like they want to do with Medicaid and all kinds of Medicare. They're trying to strip it away. You want to know why? Because they say it's been abused, which it has been. But at the end of the day, it still is necessary. So to say affirmative action, DEI, all this kind of thing should be just destroyed and that they've been only a failure, that's simply not the case. You understand what I'm saying now? Just like with the Medicare and Medicaid, they're trying to take from your parents so that they have to go back to work, which Trump and them they're actually already doing that right now. Okay? If you're dealing with that, thank Trump for that. Okay? So don't look at that and say, oh, that's wrong. But then look at these people and say, oh, well, they're just lazy slouches that they were never qualified. No, they were qualified. Okay? They just were fired because of these new policies. Simple as that. Let's move out of here and look at some more comments here. Interesting. She says she was hired into a government job to check a box, discrediting her own hard work. Or is she saying she wasn't qualified? After listening to her argument, I'm leaning towards she was not qualified. A really sad and uninformed individual. Young lady in the middle needs for Doge to have her job eliminated. It is a domino effect. Blacks are the last hired and the first let go. Like I said, there is no equality in hiring for the good paying jobs. Many of the government jobs are on the lower pay scale. That's another great point. A lot of the government jobs that these black women are in, they're still on the lower pay scale. Okay, they pay just enough to keep a household going. Really, just the crumbs. Let's look at a reply today. I agree with the state in certain federal roles paid less. I personally witnessed the terminations, job eliminations firsthand that went directly after black employees, both men and women, and not in the federal section. I've heard that since the fourth quarter of 2022 is around the time the job market began to go on a downward spiral. We do not have time, as one of the ladies stated. Many have lost their homes, apartments, cars, savings, 401k, basically everything. I'm glad this is on a national forum. It's not easy out here, and you just can't go out, apply, and get a job instantly. All right, which is a whole another thing about how jobs right now have been very hard to come by. And you see another thing that these people online are saying, and the racist folks are saying, is that black folks don't want to work. Minorities, which is what they say more so, don't want to work. Okay, y'all just lazy slouches. Y'all got that pandemic money. All right, y'all just don't want to work. Don't point out a person that abused the pandemic money system, and there are people that have done that. But most people have taken the money and used it to help themselves because they could not work. They were told to stay at home and shelter, all this kind of stuff, and they could not work. All right, and a lot of people lost their businesses. Okay, I'm talking about entrepreneurs that have lost their entire, and I've seen it, lost their entire businesses, okay, because of that stuff. All right, I knew, for example, a group that I actually worked for doing videography work, and they had a company, and they lost a lot. All right, I've done a lot of jobs for them, and they lost a lot, and they have a lot of events and stuff because of stuff that happened in the past some years. All right, so any kind of government help they could get, they definitely deserve it, and they need that. All right, let's keep on looking here. The conversation isn't just about jobs. It's about economic warning signs. When black unemployment rises first, the rest of the market often follows. Next comment, that Republican woman on the panel was disgusting. She kept spewing the MAGA lies and gaslighting. What a fool. Next comment, only 3% released. Release all the Epstein. Okay, that's my Epstein. Though that comment does have a bearing on this because you know, it's showing that his administration is dirty and filthy, which it absolutely is. Let's continue. No wonder this lady lost her Senate run. She's delusional. Must be talking about the woman in the middle. The lady in the middle was something else. The black woman in the middle was hard to stomach. Where did this woman come from? She is sitting there swinging in her chair with no care in the world, like, where my check, Trump? Did I say what you wanted me to say? Oh my God, unbelievable. Last hired, first fired. We have known this already for decades. Let's look at some replies today, y'all. I wonder why is that? Apartheid country, that's what we are, okay? Also, and somebody replying to Yusuf who said, I wonder why it is that, says, take a guess, okay? Victim loser mindset. Now look at this person's picture. Papa, so this is a picture of a white baby, okay? You think this is a black person? No. That's why I say victim loser mindset. And I say this because people will say, well, you just have to think positively. You think positively, you would not be talking like this. But the reality is that it's easy to say that when you yourself are the one getting hired. As you want to be hired. You go into the job, you're applying and getting hired, and it happens to you over and over and over and over and over again. But you, white male, or you, whatever male, even black male, okay, whatever case it be, we don't live in the same world as a black woman. As black women don't live in the same world that me, a black man, lives in. A black woman doesn't live in the same world that you, as a white man, live in. We live in different worlds, so we live in the same country. You see what I'm saying? So if someone's telling you this is happening to me, you shouldn't just say, stop being a victim. Stop thinking like you're a victim all the time, okay? What they're saying is, I'm actually suffering here, and it's not right. And I've opened up every door. I've opened up 20 doors, knocked on 20 doors, and they're not opening up for me. But then I'm seeing other people walk through these doors, just walk through the doors. I'm knocking, saying, can I come in? I'm hungry. I want to work a job. Please, can I get work a job? I'm willing to work. And you're saying no, 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 no. While in every other race, every other person, I should say, is going in and walking in. They're saying, come on in, come on in, come on in, come on in. Not you. Come on in, come on in. Not you, not you. So when they say this is wrong, you're going to sit there like a fool and say, like this person is saying, victim loser mentality, victim loser mindset. You know, you're just act like a victim. No, they actually are a victim. Okay, they actually are a victim. That's like going to a person that was in a car accident, or they're in a car accident, and they just fell out the car and they're saying, somebody help me. And you look at them and say, you're a victim loser mentality. Stop crying for help. Well, I'm crying for help because I actually need help. Okay, I actually do need help. But what these people are doing is they're putting their hands over their eyes, and they're saying, I don't want to see that you need help. So when these people come on TV and say, look, this is what's happened to me. I was in a car accident, job-wise. They say, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. I'm putting my fingers in my ears. I'm putting my hands over my eyes. I don't want to see that. Victim losing mentality. Okay? And this is the funniest part. We're going to end with this. Is the funniest part, right? Those same people that are saying victim losing mentality, victim losing mindset, those people right now have lost their jobs. And now they're calling on Daddy Trump saying, Trump, help us. Trump, we're losing our farms. Trump, we're losing our jobs. And Trump is saying, I don't care about y'all. Just I don't care about them. I care about the rich 1%, and that's who I represent. And y'all need jobs. Listen, we don't care. And now they're coming on TikTok. Now they're coming on YouTube. Those same white folks that have been making fun of black women and saying, now they're saying, we need a job. The economy is bad. But it's been bad for us the whole entire time. Whether the United States was up and the stock market's been up, and it had a boom time, or the United States was down and the stock market was in the trash. Either way, it's been the same with black folks the entire time. And when the economy is down, it gets even worse for us. And when the economy is up, it's still bad for us. That's the reality of the situation. That's why firm action and things like that exist in the first place. Like this video, hit the like button, please. I appreciate you guys for watching. Until next time, God bless you. Peace.